Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Am's Untitled Podcast. I'm Am. Hi, if you've never met me before, it's so nice to meet you. I started this podcast around, I think we're coming up to like 2.5 months now or something. And yeah, it's basically just a podcast dedicated to the things that I enjoy rambling about. Although I have been thinking a lot lately, and I'm thinking I might just turn it into just a Percy Jackson podcast because so far all my episodes have been on Percy Jackson. Like, I haven't watched any movies at the minute. I was watching Bridgerton, which I finished, but I don't think I would review something like that. That's just something I watch because I enjoy the show. So, I was thinking of maybe just turning this into a Percy Jackson podcast, and maybe now and again there might be like um a episode on a book or a TV show. But yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm just thinking I really enjoy doing the Percy Jackson stuff because obviously I'm a big Percy Jackson fan. So I was thinking maybe I would convert this into just a Percy Jackson podcast because so far all my episodes have been dedicated to Percy Jackson. So I started off by reviewing the show, so I did all 8 episodes, and then on the books now, and I was thinking that since I love the books so much, maybe I would do Heroes of Olympus as well and Chalice of the Gods. And then when I get my hand on the Wrath of the Triple Goddess in September, I could do that. And I really want to do those episodes on Percabeth, obviously because I'm a huge shipper, but it's like I don't know. Like, I don't know whether I just want this to be a Percy Jackson podcast or if I want it to be something else. I haven't like I'm kind of conflicted at this point in time because there's a lot going on in my personal life as well, and I'm just doing this really does help. Like, it relieves me while I'm recording this and whilst I'm editing and stuff. It makes me feel a lot better. I think it helps me cope with the stress that I'm under. So why not just make this about something I genuinely care about? I don't know. Let me know what do you guys think? Should I just turn it into a Percy Jackson podcast? Should I leave it as it is? I really don't know. I don't know at this point. Maybe I'm just confused. Maybe I'll be have a proper decision by the time all these episodes go up. I'm not sure, but I'll let you guys know on Instagram once that goes up. Because obviously my profile picture is Percy Jackson as well, isn't it? It's me in my Eras Tour Percy Jackson sweatshirt, my Annabeth Chase necklace. So ow, stupid. Just hit my hand. Sorry. Um, what was I saying? What was I talking about? Yeah, I was talking about the profile picture and like even my Instagram bio. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I've got my favorite Percy Jackson quote of all time, which is "Sometimes strength has to bow down to wisdom," in my bio. So yeah, I have been thinking about it. I'm not sure yet. I'll let you guys know once I make a proper decision. But as of now, we're going to be talking about the next 5 chapters in the last Olympian book. So we're doing chapter 6 to chapter 11. So let's get on with it because I've already been talking for nearly 3.5 minutes. So let's go. I'm so sorry if I get a coughing fit in between. I'm absolutely fine, and then I just have like an absolute fit. But I will try my best. And I'm so sorry that you had to hear me cough in yesterday's episode. I didn't press the pause button fast enough before I started coughing. So I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's go. So chapter 6 is My Cookies Get Scorched. So it opens up with Percy traveling on Mrs. O'Leary to Connecticut, and they end up outside Luke's house, and Nico is there waiting for him. They knock on the door, and Miss Castellan answers the door, and she thinks Percy is Luke. Oh dear. Uh-oh. They find out that she's actually a seer, so she's a human that can see through the mist, and that Hermes used to frequently visit her a lot. And they also discover that before Luke um, gave himself over to Kronos, he came to Connecticut to ask for her blessing to do something. And she obviously gave it to him because she loves him. And obviously, I don't think she questioned it very much. I don't think she's very like present. I don't think she knows what's really going on. Bless her. Oh, she's adorable. And they leave that house after Percy sees Miss Castellan have a few episodes. So when like she used to have the gift of the oracle, I think something like that. where she could see the future. She used to get these visions. So she's very, very similar to Rachel, but it doesn't make Rachel go insane. And then she doesn't remember what's just happened. And yeah, Nico's like to Percy, we need to get out of here because there's something going on here. And as they leave to find Mrs. O'Leary, they see her with an 8-year-old girl. And Percy realizes that she's Hestia, goddess of the earth, and she's currently guarding Olympus. So she's the last Olympian there. The rest of the gods have gone out to fight Typhon, basically. And Mrs. Castellan also knew about Luke's fate, and that's what scarred her and made her the way that she is, basically. And Hestia tells Percy that not all powers are spectacular, and that sometimes there is power in yielding. And that's a really clever quote because some people think that being all powerful is the best way to handle situations, but there is also a power in just going in the wind and just letting it come to you when it's ready. And I think that's what Hestia was trying to say to him. I think she knows about Nico's plan to make Percy take the Achilles Curse, and she's trying to warn against it, basically. And she tells them that she is the last Olympian and that Percy will have to remember her when he faces that big final decision. Oh God, pressure much? Bloody hell. When I'm reading it, I'm like, okay. And then the goddess leaves and Percy ends up outside his house. And he goes in, and Paul is absolutely freaking out about Percy being a demigod, but he's freaking out in a good way. Like, he just thinks it's so cool. And Percy had already told him, it's not explicitly stated in the book, but he'd explained to Paul over the summer about demigods, Greek heroes, monsters, that sort of thing. And he tells them about this quest. And he says to Sally, look, I can't do this unless I have your blessing. And like any mother, she doesn't want to give her blessing. I wouldn't. If my child said to me, like, oh, by the way, mom, I'm going to war. There's a big chance I'm going to die, but can I have your blessing for it? I'd be like, no. And, Paul very manages to subtly convince her that, give him your blessing. Like, he's a good kid. Like, that he's always going to do what's right. And she does eventually give her blessing. And Sally tells him that, if he survives the war that's coming, to give her a sign that he's still alive, even if she can't see him. And he says, if you see a blue signal, that means that I'm okay. It's a really, really emotional chapter, actually, especially that end bit. And they leave and they shadow travel to the underworld, basically, and that's where the chapter sort of cuts off. It's a really, really um gut wrenching chapter, I think. Like, I'm getting choked up, like, just thinking about it. Like, from Sally's perspective, how difficult it must be, but I also know that Percy's doing the right thing, and I think that's always the hardest for any character. Yeah. So chapter 7 is my maths teacher gives me. Oh God, I know. I've just remembered what's coming, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So they end up in Central Park at the door of Orpheus, which is passage to the underworld. And Nico says that they need some sort of music to open the door. And Percy says, "Look, if I tried to sing, all I would do was cause an avalanche. So I'm not the right person for this." And Percy calls out to Grover through this empathy link, like, "Look, I need your help. Like, where are you?" And Grover turns up and he realizes that he's been asleep for the last 2 months, and it's been like 2 months since he left camp. Like, he has no idea what's just happened. And then Nico tells Grover that Morpheus, god of dreams, had actually put him to sleep and that he's working with Kronos. So basically, Kronos' big plan is to put all the mortals to sleep so that he can take over Olympus, basically. And Grover plays a song on his reed pipes, and the door opens. Nico and Percy, I think they go down a set of stairs. I believe it's a staircase to enter the underworld. And unfortunately, Percy is greeted by Mrs. Dodds, who was the first monster he ever came to face, I guess, in the first book, in the Lightning Thief book. And she evaporated, basically. And the other Furies tell Nico to take them to Hades' palace so that Nico can get information about his family. So basically, Nico has called Percy down here not to help him, but to actually take him to Hades. In other words, Nico has sort of betrayed Percy again. And then Electo, who is Mrs. Dodds, her real name is Electo, grabs Percy and drops him in Hades' palace. And that's where Percy meets Persephone and Hades. Nico asks Hades about his mother, and Persephone gets pissed off. Obviously, doesn't want to hear about her son's affair with God knows who. So, yeah. And, Hades tells Nico about his mother, Maria, and that he put Nico and Bianca in the Lotus Casino to protect them from the first war that was coming. I think they were in the casino for ages. I think something like 70 or 80 years, something like that. And Nico finds out that Hades released him from the casino so that he would be the child from the prophecy. Hades basically wants one of his kids to have the glory. So because Hades has been dismissed from Olympus, he wanted Nico to be the child of the prophecy so that he could end up back on top in Olympus, I guess. It gets more and more clearer later on in the story, I think. And, Hades sends Nico to his room and Persephone stands up for Percy. Surprisingly, she stands up for Percy and she's like, oh, maybe we should let him go. And instead of letting him go, Hades sends him to the dungeon. And that's where the chapter sort of ends. So, chapter 8 is I Take the Worst Bath Ever. Now, I really like this chapter. I will talk about that when we get to that moment. So, Riptide appears in Percy's pocket, and as Percy falls asleep, he has a dream about Rachel. And then he has a dream about the St. Louis Arch being evacuated. Basically, the gods are fighting in that area, in other words. And Percy finds out that Typhon is by the Mississippi River, so he's getting closer and closer. So that means that Percy needs whatever he needs to do, he needs to do it right now, basically. And Nico comes to the dungeons. He's knocked out the guards and everything, and he says to Percy, "No, I'm here to help you escape." And they call on Mrs. O'Leary to take them to the River Styx. And that's when the alarms and stuff start going off because obviously they've realised that the prisoner has escaped. And eventually they arrive the River Styx, and Percy finds out about the Achilles Curse. He also there's a big revelation here that Luke has dipped in the River Styx. That's another reason why Percy can't beat him because he's what would you say? Invincible is the only word that I can think of right now. And Nico says, like, whatever you've got to do is you've got to concentrate on something, otherwise that river is going to burn you alive, basically. And as Percy steps into the river and he's going further and further down, and he looks up and he feels like he can see Annabeth, and she says to him like, take my hand, and he takes it and he gets pulled out of the river. Oh, Percy Beth moment there. At least he's thinking about her, not somebody else. That makes me very happy. um and they get spotted by Hades as he comes out. And Percy tells Nico, you stay here because we're gonna need Hades' help in this war that's coming. And Percy says to Nico that I'm gonna go and find Luke because now he's got this Achilles curse. Um, he's just as invincible as Luke is, so now he feels like he can put up fight basically. And I don't know if it says in this chapter. I didn't note it down, and I'm not sure about this, but I don't think it tells you where there's. So basically, with Achilles, there was this little spot on his heel where if they cut that, he'd die. Basically, that's the bad thing about taking on the Achilles curse is that one person hits that vulnerable spot, that spot that still connects you to your mortal life and the mortal world, you die. Basically, now I'm not sure whether Rick tells you what that spot is. Although I don't know if I should just tell you what it is. If you haven't read the book, I guess you're not gonna know. Um, but for Percy, it's like I think it's a little curve in his back, so his Achilles spot is there. Now that detail very very important, and I think Rick didn't put it there on purpose, but I've explicitly told you guys where it is. Remember that detail; it becomes very very important soon. Is all I'm gonna say. Okay, so the next chapter is chapter 9, which is Two Snakes Saved My Life. So Percy calls Annabeth and he says, now's the time, like, we all need to meet up at the Empire State Building, basically. And there's a bunch of vans there with the other campers, except the Ares cabin. They haven't come because Clarice is still pissed off about the chariot, basically. And Chiron tells Percy that, you're the leader in this battle, whatever. Sorry, throat's going croaky. 1 second. basically he tells him like, you're in charge of this, so they're gonna take orders from you. So start making plans, basically. And all the campers head up to Mount Olympus, and Annabeth tells him that he looks different. And that thing is very important because I think she knows already that he's done something. She's not 100% sure what it is, but she knows that he's done something, which, call it the soulmate instinct or something. I don't know, but she already knows that there's something different about him. And, Percy sees Bessie again, and he's greeted by Hestia. And she knows that he bears the Achilles Curse. Um, even though she warned against it in the previous chapter, but he's gone and done it anyway. And Hestia shows Percy these visions. So basically, she touches his forehead and she shows him what happened when Annabeth met Thalia and Luke for the first time. He also saw the moment where Luke gives Annabeth her knife, because obviously the dagger that she holds onto now was given to her by Luke all those years ago to protect her. And as the vision ends, Percy falls into Annabeth's arms and he passes out, basically. Oh, it falls into her arms. So cute. It's so awesome. I realize why I love this book so much. There's so many Percabeth moments in it. I think they're so cute. Um, and he's fallen into her arms multiple times before, which is they're soulmates. Honestly, they're so cute. I literally can't. That's the kind of relationship every girl wants. Girls out there, if you're listening, boys actually, anybody who's listening, find somebody like Annabeth and Percy. You want a relationship like that. Their relationship is just like top tier. They're just amazing. Anyway, Hermes appears with two snakes. With his two snakes. I don't know why he has them really, but whatever. And Hermes tells Percy that Typhon is their biggest enemy at the minute. And how could they think that? I mean, Kronos is on his way. These people are still worried about Typhon. Like, you'd think that they'd want to deal with the Titan who's coming to overtake Olympus, but they're too busy distracted by him, by Typhon instead, whatever. Anyway, and then Annabeth asks if Athena, to her mother, whether she's left them any messages. And she said one thing, to tell Percy to remember the rivers and to stay away from her daughter. Now, I'll take one of those pieces of advice, which is remember the rivers. That's helpful. Not the stay away from your daughter. She's such a hater, honestly. Like, why is she crushing my ship? Like, I'm so happy and she's ruining it. Just because she's got a bloody bone to pick with Poseidon. Percy's not like that. Honestly, it's good for her. Anyway, we're not listening to Athena on one of those things. And let's move on because that's not important. So there's a really big moment here where Annabeth apologizes to Hermes about Luke, but Hermes blames her for not helping Luke. Now that is really important, and I've only just realised why that's so important as I've noted it down. And obviously, as usual, Percy defends her, that fatal flaw, that personal loyalty coming out right there. Hermes says that I have to go back to war. And then eventually it's revealed to Annabeth that Percy bears the Achilles curse, and Luke has done the same. Um, Percy gets pissed off with her because she's still worried about Luke. Even after everything that's happened, she's still worried about him. Like I said, Luke and Rachel are two people that cause a lot of tension in the Percabeth relationship. Obviously, for him, he just can't understand why she still has feelings for him, and with her, she can't understand why he's the way that he is with Rachel, basically. And the Stolbers eventually call them, and they find out that Morpheus has put a spell on all of Manhattan, and that all the mortals are fast asleep. So basically, the invasion is about to start, and that's where the chapter cuts off. Really big moment. This is where everything's about to kick off, basically. So chapter 10 is I buy some new friends. So Percy sends Argus to defend camp, and Annabeth is given a shield by him that shows reflections. Basically, it was one of Daedalus's inventions, basically. Um, and Percy sends Mrs. O'Leary to find Grover, because obviously they're going to need all the help that they can get at this point. And as they use the shield, they see Kronos' army on the river and across Manhattan. So basically, they're kind of scattered around. And Percy tells them that no matter what happens, they have to hold Manhattan because they make it through Manhattan. There's nothing standing between them and Olympus, basically. So Percy decides to split up the demigods across different areas, and he gives Selena a phone and says, if you need anything, he puts Annabeth's number in there. He says, just feel free to ring us, basically. And then somebody really special comes to help. Just Thalia and the Hunters. I was so happy that she was back. Like, I've been waiting for her. I think the last time we got to see her was in Titan's Curse. So it was nice that she's come back to help. And Percy and Annabeth ride on a Vespa to the 59th Street Bridge. So that's the area that they said that they're going to hold together. Um, Percy did try and call Clarice. He forgot that she's not actually there. So these two have had to cover their spot, basically. And as they reach the William H. Seward statue, Annabeth tells him that most of the statues in New York are automatons. So Annabeth programs a statue to help them defend Manhattan, basically. They end up inside Battery Park, and there's a little moment where I can't remember if it's Annabeth or Percy that says this. I think it's Annabeth, and she says, I don't want anything to happen to you. And Percy says, look, unless you can breathe underwater, you can't come with me. So she ends up standing up at the top of the bay as Percy enters it. Percy then meets the two river gods who are bickering amongst themselves. You know, I don't know why they like these gods, like especially when they're brothers and siblings and stuff, tend to bicker. Like it's just like they're always fighting. Like even when you read the books, like some of the conversations they have are just hilarious. Like the two titans who are arguing about Kronos, it was so funny. And Percy tells them that if you help me drown those boats, I can give you a sand dollar. So the sand dollar was Poseidon's gift to Percy on his birthday, and now he realizes that that's what he needs to be able to pay the river gods to help them. And eventually they take the sand dollar, they fight over it, whatever they do, but they do crash all the ships, basically, that are in that area. And when Percy gets back to Annabeth, she tells him that another army is coming, but it's being led by the Minotaur. Now, the Minotaur was the first monster, well, one of the first monsters that Percy killed by himself. No, it was the first monster he killed by himself, because he killed Alecto accidentally because he didn't know what he was doing. But the Minotaur, when it tried to crush Sally, it was the first big bad that he faced when he knew that he was a demigod. So I'm glad that Rick put that in there. It's like he's done like a whole round circle, which I love. I love that. See, Rick never puts anything, even monsters and stuff. He never puts anything without having a purpose. And whether like they appear books later or like straight after, like they all have a purpose in the story, and that's what I love about his writing. I really, really appreciate that about his writing style. So the last chapter we're going to be talking about is chapter 11, which is We Break a Bridge. I think this might also be my favorite chapter in this part of the book. I feel like specifically pick one. Like there's so many chapters in this book that I love. So the chapter opens up with Percy calling Blackjack to take him to the bridge, and Annabeth sees the Minotaur. And Michael Yu, so I think he is from. Oh my god, I can't. Oh yeah, I think he's from the Apollo cabin. And he tells Percy that he gave the chariot to Clarice, hoping that she would come and help, but it didn't really work. And Percy goes up to Annabeth. I really want to say this out loud. He says, "Don't I get a kiss for good luck? It's kind of tradition, right?" And she says, "Come back alive, seaweed brain, and we'll see." Oh, they're so cute. They're so wholesome. I love it. At least he had the bravery to ask for a kiss this time. I mean, first time she made the first move, so I guess he was trying to do that. I love that. I love that in the most heightened moment of tension, Percy's still thinking about that. I love them so much. I don't think there's anybody that can read this stuff and think that they're cringy. I just think that they're adorable. And I'm like one of the most unromantic people you'll possibly meet, but for some reason with these two, like I just think that they're just adorable. Like I never cringe when I read their stuff, basically. I just think they're so cute. Anyway, like I said, like I'm gonna have a full Percabeth episode. Like I'm gonna go through all these moments and talk about them. But yeah, Percy comes face to face with the Minotaur, and as they're fighting, obviously because Percy has this Achilles curse, he's a lot stronger than normal, and he defeats the Minotaur by throwing him off the bridge. The way it's described in the book is so funny. But like I said, I can't read the book out to you. So I'm just saying what happens. Like, I'm summarizing everything that happens with the chapter. And just after he's done that, he locks eyes with Kronos. So it's Luke in, well, Kronos in Luke's body, basically. And the rest of the campers retreat. Well, Percy tells them to get out of here, so Michael Yu takes them away, and Percy and Annabeth are on the bridge fighting side by side, like they always do in every battle. No matter what happens, they're always together. Now comes my favourite moment in this book. I've highlighted this might be my favourite Percabeth moment ever, and it's the moment where Ethan Nakamura stabs Annabeth. So Ethan Nakamura was first introduced in the Battle of the Labyrinth book, and he says to Percy in that book, "You shouldn't have spared me." And we realize that she gets stabbed because she was protecting Percy's Achilles spot. Don't forget, he hasn't told her where that spot is. For some reason, she just knew and she just pushed herself in the way, like you would. Oh, they're so cute. So I've got the full quote here, the full Percy quote, which is, "Get back. I slashed the air in a wide arc, driving the rest of the demigods away from Annabeth. Nobody touches her." Oh my god, they are so cute. That moment might be my favorite Percabeth moment ever. I'll have to go through every single one, but that one, the fact that she didn't know where his Achilles spot was, but she just had this feeling that he was in danger, and she just stood in the way. And I didn't expect anything less from them. Like, they are so, so cute. And then Kronos sort of tells Percy that, you have to surrender or I'm going to kill Annabeth, basically. And in that moment, Percy calls Blackjack to carry Annabeth away so that he can deal with Kronos, basically. And as they're fighting, he tells Percy that he would have made a better body host. Now, that's why I think in The Lightning Thief, Luke wanted Percy to join them because I think he knew that Percy would have been a stronger ally for Kronos. Because Percy had his own personal nitpicky moments with the gods, but he knows what I love about Percy is he knows what's morally right and morally wrong. And I think Luke, because obviously he was clouded by this hatred for his father, this pain that he was going through with his mom, I think it made it more easy for him to fall into that trap. Whereas Percy had that love from his mother. His mother was this moral compass in his life, and I think that's what stopped him, which I love that. I love that. Um, they make Rick. I told you, Rick is very good at sliding details in that, and sometimes it can be overlooked. Like I know, like a lot of the time, I used to overlook a lot of things when I was reading the books for the first time. But when you sit back and you read them again, there are so many details in there that are just like, wow. Even I'm like that. Even now, like reading it, like as an adult, I still think these books are so impressive. I'm trying to get my family onto them because we're all like fantasy fans. So like we love Harry Potter, we love Game of Thrones, we love the Chronicles of Narnia. What other ones that we looked at as a family? Yeah, so what I mean is we're all huge fantasy film buffs, like Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, that sort of thing. We love stuff like that. Twilight. There's so many universes that we all love, and I'm trying to get my family into Percy Jackson. I'm like, you won't regret it. Like, honestly, you won't regret it. I think it is top tier. Like Percy Jackson, Game of Thrones. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Game of Thrones, but I really love Game of Thrones. I think it's amazing. And Harry Potter, I think they're like my top three like fictional universes. I think that they're amazing. So yeah, I'm trying to get my family into reading these. My auntie, if I can convince her to read it, the others will read it. I just know it. Anyway, sorry, on tangent there. What was I talking about? Yeah, he talks about him being a better host body, and then Kronos uses his scythe, and he basically just smashes it into the bridge, and the whole army goes flying basically. And then Michael tells Percy, you need to break that bridge because that's going to destroy most of his army basically. And Percy does the same. Obviously, they both have the Achilles Curse, right? So he slams Riptide into the bridge, and the bridge starts to crack, and it eventually, I think it breaks actually at some point. Yeah, it does. And Kronos says that he will see Percy in the evening. Now, do you know what makes me laugh about this moment? I've just thought about it now as I've been talking about it. The other demigods, right? don't know that Percy has that Achilles curse. So can you imagine how bloody psychotic Percy looks to them? He's just literally broken a bridge using Riptide. They don't know that he's got this curse. Like, they don't know that he's literally invincible. I always wonder what it would have been like to be like a camper on the other side, just watching everything unfold and be like, "What the hell's going on?" Like, honestly, I think it just made me laugh. Like when I think about it, I'm just like, how Percy would have looked to the other demigods. It was like, wow, yeah. Sorry, that was like the intrusive thought that I was just thinking about. I just thought I'd let you guys know. Anyway, so the chapter ends with Selena calling Percy, and she says, you know, you need to bring a healer with you because something has happened to Annabeth, and that's where the chapter finishes. So my final thoughts regarding this chapter was I love that Grover was finally back in the story. I missed him because he is just the heart and soul of this story, and I love him being there. So I'm happy that he was back. I love that there was Morpheus and Hestia. Obviously Hestia being the last Olympian, Morpheus being the god of dreams who has put the entire of Manhattan to sleep, basically. Nico obviously betrays Percy, but then helping him escape, he realized that Hades didn't keep up his end of the deal either, and I'm happy that he gave Percy an idea of how to help. And obviously, Percy bathing in the river Styx and seeing Annabeth. And he's one of those people, he just does everything he possibly can. Like, there's nothing more or nothing less that he can do to help people. And I love that. I love that about him. Obviously, Thalia being back, I was so happy that she was back because I really missed her. I really love her as a character, so I'm so happy she was back with the Hunters, of course. More Percabeth moments. My God, it's happening, guys. I've only been waiting 5 books, 5 long books for something to happen between them, and it's finally happening, and I love it. That fight on the bridge, honestly, like I said, the whole campers situation, like what they must have been thinking when Percy was breaking that bridge, I have no idea. But yeah, so it was a really exciting part of the book. Like, I love those chapters. I think chapter 8 and chapter um what's it called? 11 have got to be my two favorites in this part of the book because it's just they're just so good. Like, yeah. Rick really, really knows how to feed. Like, he gives you what you want to hear at the right point in time. Like, you know how we've been anticipating this for 5 books? Like, he really gives you everything that you want in a like at a time. So you have time to digest one thing and then another great thing comes. So yeah. I'm really excited to do part 3 because like I said, the last few parts of this book so good. And then I can't wait to talk about which one is my favorite book. I think you guys might be able to guess from these reviews which one my favorite might be, but we'll see. We'll see. So thank you guys so much for listening in. I really appreciate it. I didn't have to cough this time, which was good. I might have a massive coughing fit after I've recorded this, but I don't mind. As long as I'm not coughing for you guys to hear it on the recording. I really hope you guys are enjoying these episodes. I definitely am. Like I said, I'll let you guys know if I'm going to turn this into just a Percy Jackson podcast, which means I might change the name and stuff as well. I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm not certain. I promise. I will let you guys know when I've come to a decision. But yeah, like I said, thank you guys so much for listening in. I really appreciate it. I know I tend to ramble a lot, so I'm really sorry about that. Although I know that there'll definitely be people out there that get just as excited as I do, so that makes me feel a lot better. So like I said, thank you guys so much for listening in. Really appreciate it. I hope you guys are having a good week. If you're not having a good week, it's okay. I've had a pretty shitty week too. The only thing that makes me happy at this moment in time is doing these recordings. So I'm glad that I can provide a source of entertainment, although I'm convinced a lot of you think I'm probably batshit crazy. Great, I guess. It's better to be crazy than it is to be normal. I would hate to be normal and boring. So I'm glad I have this side to me. But yeah, like I said, thank you guys so much for listening in. If anybody needs anything, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I do check DMs, I check emails as well. They're all at Aamsuntitledpodcast. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. It'd be very much appreciated. Episodes are available to stream on Spotify as well. Am I forgetting anything? Follow me on Instagram. I let you guys know when episodes go up on Spotify and on my YouTube channel. And I will probably speak to you guys sometime next week, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, like I said, there'll be 5 parts to this book, which should hopefully go up by the end of the week. But I'll try my best. Anyway, thank you guys so much again. Big hug to anybody that needs it, and hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. Mwah. Bye.